Welcome to Storytime, brought to you by the OWSCyCon2019, the online book event of the year.
The alarm shrilled, announcing the too soon arrival of a new day. Candy didn't want to get out of bed. Was it just her imagination, or was the glass of water on her bedside table iced over? Maybe not, but the little cloud that formed from her breath told her it was very cold in the attic bedroom. Good enough reason to stay in bed with the electric blanket cranked up to 9. As if she needed another reason. Having Newt Slank for a boss would make anyone want to pull the covers over her head. Nevertheless, get up she must. Tardiness would certainly not impress Mr. Slank. He was no doubt anxious for his ink. Candy pulled her robe and slippers from under the blanket and wriggled them on over her thermals, flannel pajamas, and socks before leaving the bed's warmth. As she dashed for the door, she caught a glimpse of the Connecticut River out the street side window. The surface gleamed like sterling silver in the pale dawn light, frozen stiff. Overnight, they'd had one of their infamous ice storms. Tree limbs, the street, unsheltered cars like hers, were all glazed with a shimmering clear coat. Candy sighed. She would need extra time out in the frigid driveway to pry her car from its frozen tomb. Candy scurried downstairs. While the forced hot air heating never quite made it to the attic bedroom of her Civil War-era house, it did do an adequate job of warming the floor below. Last night she had laid her work outfit over one of the heat registers. She fingered the wool skirt and sweater. Their warmth would be welcome when she came out of the shower. She had set the timer on the coffee maker to brew a hot, racing pot for the precise moment she would need it most. Now. She steeled herself with a freshly made cup. Outfitted in boots and ski suit and armed with a butter knife, ice scraper, hairdryer, and can of de-icer, she went out to tackle the car. She plugged her hairdryer into outside outlet and aimed it full blast at the car. As ice melted, she chiseled around the door and at the frozen lock with the blunt-edged knife. With each furious stab, she took out her frustrations. 1 for Slank, 1 for ice storms. 1, 2 for Slank, 1 for her thankless job. Chip, chip, chip. Now, Candy Wadsen, she scolded herself. You'll never get anywhere with that attitude. Maybe Slank didn't appreciate her. She would just keep plugging away at her job, complete her task with pride and integrity. Hard work and determination would win over Newt Slank just as it was finally freeing her car from an icy prison. An hour and a half later, she arrived at the Sugarloaf Inn. She considered herself lucky to have skidded only once. Route 116 was glossy black and smooth as lacquer, despite the salting and sanding it had received from emergency road crews. She unlocked the door to the business office, housed in an old wood-frame cabin, separate from the main resort building. The inn's owner felt that there was no point in wasting expensive, showy real estate on mere staff, so no highly polished wood floors, no roaring fireplaces, or sparkling crystal chandeliers for them. Instead, Candy's storm boots squeaked on a worn linoleum floor. A bulky, fluorescent light sputtered overhead, and the steam radiator clinked and wheezed. That wasn't right. The light should be off, the heat turned down. Normally, Candy was the first one in. She turned everything on. Someone else must have gotten here first. Certainly it wasn't any other member of the staff. No one but she ever came in early, ever spent a single minute more than necessary here. The door to her boss's office was ajar. Slank himself in early? Incredible, Candy thought. Good morning, sir, Candy called. No response, but that didn't surprise her. It was appropriate for her to greet him, but he wouldn't lower himself to return the gesture. Candy sat at her old desk in the reception area, pulled off her boots and slipped her heels on. She stuffed her gloves into the pocket of her winter coat and hung it on the back of her chair. There was coffee in the pot by the door. Noticing the lack of aroma, she touched the pot and found it cold. Left over from last night, she decided. Heaven forbid Slank should make a fresh pot. After all, that was her job, along with handling the phone, typing and filing, if that all didn't get in the way of her primary duties, like fetching ink from Greenfield. I'm going to get some water for coffee, Candy called. She took the pot down the hall to the ladies' room. As she rinsed it out in the sink, she made a face at herself in the mirror. You gutless wonder, Candy Wadsen, she scolded herself. If you had any spine at all, you'd tell Slank to make his own coffee. Shouldn't be beyond his talents. The face in the mirror frowned back at her with anger in its brown eyes. Oh, but it might interfere with his precious work, was the retort. Or, to be more precise, his precious hobbies. Slank was a collector. First, it was pocket knives. Next, it was scissors. Then, it was letter openers. Lately, he was into fountain pens. Just yesterday, he had almost giggled with something approaching glee when a new catalog had arrived with the office mail. "Hold my calls," he had told Candy, then retreated into his office to revel in glossy photos of deluxe writing instruments. "Coffee's on, Mr. Slank. Can I get you a cup?" Candy poked her head into his office. "Mr. Slank?" He was slumped face down on his elegant mahogany desk. The glass-shaded pharmacy lamp cast a pool of ghastly green light on his balding head. His right arm was crumpled under his chest, his left stretched out straight. His left hand clutched the newest addition to his collection, a magnificent black lacquered fountain pen. Sticking out of his neck was one of his antique letter openers, the brass one, with a blade shaped like a sickle and a long handle sculpted into a coiled snake. Lamplight gleamed in the knife's polished metal surface, and one of the snake's 2 ruby eyes seemed to wink at Candy. Blood soaked Slank's bright white shirt.
This story time was read by Nikki, Hyson, and brought to you in conjunction with the OWSCyCon 2019. OWSCyCon runs from May 17th through May 19th. You can find us at OWSCyCon.OurRightSide.com. Again, OWSCyCon.OurRightSide.com. We have events happening across all genres. If you are a reader, you cannot afford to miss this event. You never know. You may just find your next best read.